Hello, I'm Shelby Ferris, the Marketing Program Manager at Connect First, and I'm going to be your moderator for this demo of the Connect First TCPA Safe Mode solution. Nick Deininger and Richard Minolkin will be walking you through this demo. Nick is the Solutions Engineer here at Connect First. He has held agent and supervisor positions in contact centers of every size, and since 2010, he has worked to set up and deploy several call center environments ranging from small businesses to contact centers with hundreds of agent seats. Richard is the founder and chief customer advocate of Connect First. He has been involved in enhanced hosted telecommunications for over 25 years, focused on customer satisfaction and reliability. He has built, run, and managed complex systems including cloud routing, ACD, call tracking, IVR, and other components. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Richard to tell you guys a little bit more about Connect First in Safe Mode.
Hi, everybody. I'm Richard. I've been doing this for a very long time, as she has noticed. And so I've been involved in TCPA challenges going back to the 90s. I remember when every time that they've come out with different rulings. And back in 2013, when they did the most recent changes to the regulations, as well as just the past month or so when they've clarified some things which were not very clear before about what an ATDS is, automated telephone dialer system, and its requirements regarding cellular telephones and calling them. And our Safe Mode product has been, and I'll show you some more documentation about that later, basically it is ATDS, TCPA compliant with regard to that for calling cell phones. We do have full integration with DNT.com. We scrub the cell phones. What happens is calls will upload a list, or you'll upload a list into our system, and we scrub it against the cell phone list that's updated in real time by DNC.com, and it pulls out the numbers that are not cell phones and lets them dial, and if you happen to have some cell phones you are allowed to dial based on a pre-written documentation that you have, we can whitelist those too. And the cellular phones are put into a completely different product that has no capacity to be an automated dialer, and it is the legal equivalent of an agent manual call, as it shows here. So, Nick, next. So, you know, this is the opinion of Nick Whistler from McMurray Peterson & Schuster about our TCPA compliance. They essentially deem the capacities of our other products irrelevant when determining whether TCPA Safe Mode solution is an ATDS. It is not an ATDS, and it does not have the capacity to be, based on our understanding of the regulations. We are confident, that our TCPA Safe Mode is safe. So, you want to, Nick, go ahead and show what it looks like?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, thank you, Richard, for that. Again, my name is Nick Deininger. I'm the Solutions Engineer over here at Connect First. And what I'm going to do is take you through a tour of our platform. I'm going to show you first what it would look like for, say, a predictive agent that's operating in a normal capacity, and then we'll show you the TCPA and kind of the differences between the two. We call it the Connect First Safe Mode. So the first thing I'll do here is log in. This is going to be for the predictive side of things. I'm going to log into my predictive group here. So I'm going to hit log in. We're agnostic as to where agents are taking calls. So, you know, you can use a soft phone or, you know, a desk phone, cell phone. Doesn't matter too much to us as long as we have some way of connecting to the agents. So now that I'm connected, the predictive side of things is going to start working here. So I'm going to be receiving a call here, and I will answer it. Hello, hello. So as soon as I answer that, I've got my screen pop. This could be another URL, or in this case, we've configured something. We've configured a survey in the Connect First platform. We've got some of the information on the person that we're calling. And then we've got our dispositions up the bottom left here, and then the call controls up at the top right. So as an agent, I would fill this out. This is a script or call flow as normal. So they would just fill out this survey that you've built as a predictive agent, and then they can select the disposition and then move on to the next call. So that's kind of their process for the predictive. So that's a very simplified version of it. But it kind of illustrates the point that the calls get fed to the agent. They're able to answer those calls. And as you can see, the calls will just keep coming through to them. So we'll just go ahead and hang that up. So that's the predictive side of things. So we'll just go ahead and disposition this call. And we'll put this agent away as well. So that's the predictive side of things. I'm going to log out as this agent. So
yeah, you can't switch to, you can't stay logged in and switch to the TCPA safe mode. You actually have to physically log out of the system and log into the other one.
That's correct. Yes. So I've just had another tab open to log in as a different agent, because again, this system is completely segregated. It's a separate account, separate agent login. We've taken the degree of separation as much as we possibly could in order to completely separate this from any kind of system like a predictive dialer. So I'm going to log in as my TCPA safe mode agent. So I'll hit login, and I'm going to log in under my safe mode dial group. So I'll hit login here. And then it's a similar process, although you're going to see you'll note a couple of the differences here. So I logged in as an agent, and I am still using a soft phone, but again, I had to restart that entire connection. So it's not connected to any kind of ATDS. And then as an agent, I actually have to initiate what is called the safe outbound form. So I initiate that, and it's similar to preview. We've taken out a lot of the technology that a standard preview dialer may have, though, like leaving automated messages, for example. So as an agent, I would have to fetch the records, and I get returned back a number of records that have been uploaded by an admin or possibly by the API. And so I'll hit, you can hit detail on these and see additional detail if you have that detail. Maybe you want to look at the history of the calls that you're dialing. You can also, I should note too, that you can determine how many leads you want sent to this agent when you hit fetch leads. So I've got about 10 leads here, but you could have one lead returned to each agent, so the agent would dial one lead at a time. I just happen to have set it for 10. So once I've fetched my leads and maybe looked at some details, I can then hit dial. System will go ahead and dial. And again, very similar to what we were looking at before, but it's not an automated process. The agent actually has to initiate that dial.
And then at that point, the agent is on while the phone is ringing. There is no chance of any kind of abandon happening. The agent actually hears the ring, hears the hello. They probably wouldn't hear they wouldn't hear the busy signal because it would just kick it back. But there's nothing here between the agent and the person being called. It is a direct audio path.
Right, that's correct. And also, since you brought that up, Richard, the voicemail. If the person doesn't answer, the agent will obviously be connected to the voicemail.
Right.
And then at that point, they can't leave an automated message. They could talk on the voicemail, but the agent does have to initiate the hang up there. So it is the legal equivalent of a manual dial. So this agent would fill out this survey. Again, they have the information up at the top left. Fill out the survey of data that you're collecting, and they can initiate a hang up or transfer, whatever they want. But then afterwards, they would disposition the call. So let's say this one's completed, and then they can move on to the next one. So they just simply hit dial to the next lead, and again, the process kind of repeats from there. So those are the differences there. And
then once they're on the call, as you can see, they have the ability to do other functions such as transfer the call someplace else or re-queue it to a different person and put them on hold. All those features are just features of a regular, essentially a telephone that you can do with it. But the system is being requested to dial manually by an agent. And with all the other pieces that are in here, it is the equivalent of a manual dial, and most importantly, does not have the capacity to be an ATDS.
Yep, that's exactly correct. So a couple other things I wanted to show here. We've got, just to show you a little bit of the separation that we have. So we've got a safe mode account here, and there's a couple of settings that we have that you can not actually enable or disable because it's completely separated. So we've got a safe mode option that you can't change. So this is done from when the account is created. It's either safe mode or it's not, and that is not an option that can be changed. We're also using a whole set of architecture that is completely separated from the rest of the platform. So we have these different outbound, basically the technology that helps drive those manual dials and connects the calls is completely separate. We're using a different set of carriers for that. We use a completely separate set of servers, and there's a lot of separation there.
I just want to point something out here. Once something he said, but I think it bears repeating. Once the account has been created, as a root or super user, Nick has the ability to change all sorts of things, even things that the account itself can't change. But the one that cannot be changed is the mode from TCPA or not. That's basically hard coded in with the creation of the account. And the only thing you can do is delete this account. You cannot turn it into an account that can be do an ATDS.
Tied to an ATDS, yep. Correct. Excellent. Thank you for pointing that out, Richard. And then just to show you an example of a non-safe mode account, we would have to jump over to a completely different account. You'll notice that we still can't change safe mode. It's no disabled here. And then the servers that we're using are all our production servers and not affiliated with the safe mode. So in this case also, I should show that on the configuration for the outbound, on these, what we call them dial groups, and essentially they're different dialing modes that you can do. So you've got preview and predictive. But if you jump over to a different account, which would be the safe mode account, you'll see that the dialing mode is going to be slightly different. So it'll be a safe mode type of dial, and that's the only mode that you would have here in terms of the dialing. So it's specific to dialing under the safe mode dial type. Anything I'm missing there, Richard?
No, I mean, the one thing you'll notice is it seems like there's a certain amount of overkill with some of the selections that are made and things that you can and cannot do. And that is, those are things that we have done to go above and beyond anything that anybody could reasonably claim can have a future capacity.
Right, yep. It's important to note, too, that you can't change the capacity, as Richard noted earlier. You can't change, the account type or the dialing type, which is the reason why it looks like it might be overkill. But in terms of following those regulations, we're really trying to go above and beyond to make sure that everything has been separated so that someone reasonably couldn't look at that as as an ATDS, or at least sees the clear separation or distinction between the two different dial types in our platform.
So if there's any questions about this, I think now we'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, we did get a few questions in somewhere towards the beginning of the presentation, so they might have been briefly covered by you guys, but if you guys could go ahead and just hit them again, that'd be great. We had someone ask, how do you demonstrate that this is not an ATDS currently?
Well, we just showed that the usage of this system follows the rules of what a manual call would be using a regular phone. There's no way for the system to dial by itself. The records have to be selected by an agent manually, and they have to be manually dialed. So the actual mode that is being dialed is clearly within the bounds of mimicking a manual dial. So that's the easy part.
Okay, a similar question to that was, isn't it true that with modifications, this could be an ATDS?
The way that people have interpreted this is, as a user of our system, you do not have the capacity to make our system work as an ATDS. The only way you could do that would be to break into our security, read our code, modify it significantly, find out how we deploy it, and then deploy it. And number one, you're contractually not allowed to do that, and number two, that's not going to happen. So you, as the user of it, are using a system that you have no capacity to turn into an ATDS. And as you can see, we can't even change it to an ATDS. It's locked out. So the system you're using, as it is set up, can never be set to be used as an ATDS.
Great, thank you, Richard. The next question we have is there a cell phone DNT list for scrubbing against?
Yeah, there are several companies who basically do that. We're using DNT.com. They get updates all the time, and those updates keep you ahead of some of the requirements with dialing wrong numbers or having a number that wasn't a cell phone yesterday be one today. As your list is loaded, it is scrubbed against it, and it can be scrubbed at midnight every night as well with the records pulled out, and you have to take those records and put them in your safe mode to be dialed manually.
Hey, Richard, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's what we with DNC.com, it's up to the 15 minutes updates in terms of knowing if it's a landline or cell phone. Is that correct?
That sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah, their updates are not absolutely real time, but they're 4 times an hour is pretty good.
Yep.
The next question we have is actually in response to the modifications question. It's, I don't have the ability to modify it, but you could, which technically means it could be modified to behave as an ATDS. What is your response to that?
Well, first of all, we can't modify this account to be made into an ATDS. I guess we could completely reprogram the entire system, which would take months, but we're actually in our contracts, we state that we will not do that. So you are should be under no worries that we will. We're contractually obligated not to. You're contractually obligated not to reverse engineer and try and change our system. Since we're contractually obligated not to, you can pretty clearly say to somebody else that this doesn't have the capacity because you can't do it and they won't. Meaning us.
Great. And the last question we have so far, attendees, if you have any more questions, get them in soon. But the last one we have right here is, we have been told by legal that we cannot store the numbers in the dialer. Is the platform that hosts manual dial still hosting the data within the system?
The phone numbers are stored in our system, yes. I am not an attorney. I don't even play one on TV. Our attorneys assure us that the fact that numbers are stored in a database is not relevant because of the way that they're dialed and the fact that they're not dialed in automated or random fashion and they can't be dialed by the system by itself. Some attorneys are saying you can't even make phone calls with a cellular phone because you could turn that into an ATDS. But the method that we are using, we have been told, is identical to a manual call while it's being used, even though you can store favorite numbers as in your cell phone. All your contacts, the numbers are stored there. So its actual storage of the number, to my knowledge, is not indicative of a system that can dial automatically.
Thank you, Richard. We did get another question in. Do we need to set this up with Connect First or with DNT.com for cell scrubs? And will this affect all of our accounts?
You can set up through us for the cell phone scrubbing. If you're doing any FTC scrubbing, against all the state and federal do not call lists, then you'll want to get an FTC organization ID because that's required by law. But to scrub against the cell phones, you can sign up for that through us. And when you load your lists, the numbers that are considered cellular phones are put into a separate file that you then load into the safe mode. So you have to, we default to scrubbing out cell phones when you upload a list. You have to do something specifically to make sure that it doesn't if you don't want it to. So any campaigns that you're dialing that get uploaded will have the records pulled out for you to handle the way you want to. Do you think I answered that, Shelby, or I missed something?
Yeah, I think you did good. The last question then is, how can we keep track of respondents who have given us consent to call them back on an ATDS?
There is a whitelisting function that we can show you how to supply to DNC.com that will be associated with your account that can be whitelisted so that those records are not scrubbed out.
Great, thank you, Richard. So that was the last question that we got in. So Nick,